You're listening to Prosperity Report, Love and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Kanae Corder, best-selling author, international speaker, and clinical hypnotherapist specializing in financial therapy. Each week, we'll bring you actionable ideas, tips, tools, and resources to help you get the mindset shift you need to feel more confident personally and financially, so you can reduce stress, work less, and make a huge impact on your world and your income. Now, let's get into today's show. Do you ever wonder if your brain is secretly plotting against you? The truth is, it is. Your brain is full of negative messages and programs. These negative messages block you from success and cause stress. And right now, whether you know it or not, your brain is standing in the way of your success, the success you were meant to have. Over my years of clinical practice, I've created a system that helps uncover the counterproductive brain habits imprinted by society. If your business has not reached the level of success you would like it to, it's time to take action. Join me and one powerful group of achievers in my coaching community. It's the tribe for people who want to get guidance and connection so they can be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. Go to KanaeCorder.com/community. Get the guidance and connection you need to take your business to the next level. Go to KanaeCorder.com/community. Hey there, Prospros. This is Q&A with Tara and Kanae. Now, you might remember that we used to do Q&A, and I guess it's been a couple of months since we've done it. And that's because there was so much transition going on. And you probably heard all about the transition last episode, well, 2 episodes ago in episode 63. We talked about all the great things happening at Presidential Lifestyle. But today we're going to focus back on you, and we're going to answer 1 or 2 questions, depending upon how deep we go on one or the other. But I have Tara here with me who's going to help me answer the question. Hey, Tara.
Hey, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm like so relieved that some of the heaviness is gone now that you and Francine and the whole team are like making this whole thing happen. So it feels good. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I absolutely agree. I think that we have definitely gotten into a good groove. Now we just are ready to tackle the world.
Absolutely. And we have so many questions for you that came in the community. So I'll explain a little bit and then we'll get started with the question or 2. So what happens is that in the community, if you're part of the Presidential Lifestyle Confidence Coaching community, then you have the opportunity to ask questions inside the community. Now, the community is only $97 a year. So if you're not already a member, you probably want to jump in because just one question makes it worth the money, right? If you get one question answered and your life is just a little bit easier. So I love this offering or this thing that we do because I know that questions are what make you confused and what stress you out. And the Confidence Coach community is all about relieving stress. And one of the ways you can relieve stress is to have somebody to talk to, which is why I enjoy being a coach and a therapist so much. And it actually brings us to this question, right, Tara?
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's important to say, within our community that we're all like-minded individuals, but we're all over the world. And so bringing your questions into the community is a great way to get unbiased ideas and opinions and clarity for some of those things that you might not feel comfortable talking about with people who are closest to you because you maybe already know what they're going to say. So bring your questions to us and we love discussing them.
Yes. And that's such a great point. It is true that sometimes you do know already, like, okay, if I go talk to so-and-so, they're going to say this. So you don't even need to talk to them because you're like, and that's not what I need to hear right now.
Exactly.
So that kind of brings us to today's first question. The question that we got in the community is, what do you do when you can't speak to the people around you about your business or your life and what's going on with you? And oh my gosh, that is such a great question. So the first thing that I would say is kind of what you just brought up about you kind of already know what the people are going to say. Sometimes it's just oldness, right? It's like too familiar. The people are too familiar with you, you're too familiar with them. And especially when you have something new going on in your life, they may not be even ready to see you go down that path. Sometimes they may feel like you're leaving them behind and they don't even understand what it is you're talking about. So, for example, let's say you want to save the world. You have this big dreams, these huge, like, I've got to do this significant thing in the world. And they're just like, I just want to wake up and go to work. And I'm okay with that. If you're talking about your experience about saving the world, you're losing them. They can't even connect with you in that moment. And so sometimes it's around that familiarity and that person just being too close to you. And the second part of that is just not wanting the same things you want. So nothing wrong with either of those goals, like saving the world and saving the next episode of something on your Roku or whatever. I don't even know these equipment things. I think it's Roku because I don't watch a lot of episodes of anything except podcasts, and that's just listening. I watch some of them on YouTube. But what would you say about that? Like that familiarity and that like having those differences?
Yeah, so it's funny that you bring that up because I have experienced this recently, making the transition out of one position into another and taking on where I want to go with my life full time. And one of the things that I have known for the past couple years, but I've been working towards making happen, and thankfully I met you and it's, slowly coming to fruition, is I do not want to be chained to a desk. And that can look like multiple different things. But a lot of people in my life or that I've met through work, former colleagues, they don't understand that concept. It's totally okay. They enjoy the routine of getting up, being at your desk at 8:30, taking that hour lunch break, being back at your desk at 1 and working until 5:30 and then going home. And explaining to people that, that's just not where I'm like finding my fulfillment. Some people understand it, but some people don't understand it. And there's not a right or wrong way. Like you said, each person has their path, but when you start having a conversation with somebody about where you're wanting and that kind of glossy, glazed over look that they get in their eyes, and you're like, oh, this is definitely not the right person to be talking to about this. And they check out and go somewhere else because they're not identifying or understanding where you might be wanting to go with your life.
Yeah, I think Tony Robbins has like these five or six, I think it's six needs. And one is certainty and another one is significance. I mean, there are a couple others, of course, I said six, but the two that stand out in this conversation are certainty and significance. So if you are looking for significance, doing something, making an impact, and the other person is looking for certainty, they can't even understand your impact conversation because they're like, they love that, what you just described, that I wake up, I go to work, I go to lunch, I go home, I have my dinner, I pick up my kids from school, like whatever it is, that routine. They love that routine and that gives them certainty and comfort and it fulfills their need. But when you have that need for significance, which a lot of our listeners do and a lot of our community members do, then it's tough because you're like, oh, what's next? And we talk about this all the time. Like you're curious as to how to take it to the next level, not just stay the status quo and in that middle or wherever it is that you are.
Yeah. And it's, oh gosh, I mean, I feel like that's pretty much the story of my life. We talked about this when on the last podcast that you and I did together about being a hummingbird and going from one opportunity to the next and finding significant in multiple things when some people find one thing and they can hone in on that and that's great and that's what they're going. And I don't want to say unfortunately or fortunately for me, it just is who I am, that I am always, looking for fulfillment in a variety of paths and avenues. But with that being said, I think that a lot of times when we can't speak to the people around us about these types of things, it's because we don't want to come off, or I know consciously for me, I don't want to come off as sounding arrogant, like I'm better than because I am seeking something different from the norm and different from the status quo. And so, when I decided to do my quote year of travel, a lot of people, and one of my things was, I don't want to be chained to a desk. I want to find significance in my next job opportunity, career opportunity, where I have the freedom to do this and that. And I very, very strongly remember one of my little sisters, I have three, but one of my little sisters saying, why can't you just be happy with what you have right now? Like, you've got this great job, this great apartment, great group of friends. You're in New York City where you've always wanted to be. And now that's not enough for you. For me, it's not about it not being enough for me, but there's still more. There's still more that I want. And to me, I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying, no, that's not enough for me. I do want more. I do want to have autonomy and freedom in my career and taking that next level. And so I think what we always come back to is that we don't speak up about things sometimes around the people we love out of fear of rejection and judgment from those people. And that ultimately comes back around to just, the way that we are as a society. Well, not necessarily as a society. It's cultural and it's societal. There's many factors to it, because I have lived abroad and been around other cultures and stuff. I remember living in the Caribbean and working with the local population. I lived in Dominica and working with the local Dominicans. And anytime somebody got a raise or a promotion into a new position, nobody was happy for that person. They didn't lift each other up. They were kind of like, oh, well, you think you're better than us now. And that's unfortunate. I can't say, I don't experience that much with my friends and family, but I know that they do sometimes are like, they don't understand, where I'm coming from. And so it's great to be a part of the confidence coaching community and having a group of people that are curious and want to move beyond just working for the man,
Yeah.
And that old adage, you're born, you get a job, you pay taxes, and you die. Like, there's got to be more, right?
Yes. I am definitely seeking more. And I feel like what you said about what one person may say, well, you're wrong if you're going out for more. Don't do that. Why are you wasting your time stressing yourself out? But at the same time, nobody is wrong for staying in that comfort zone that they want to be in. I totally agree with you on that. And also, I want to add that because of the question that he asked, what do you do? I definitely want to give some color to how you handle this. So you talked about how sometimes, and especially and even in other countries and cultures, sometimes you are moving forward and they aren't. So I would say look at the part of the story you're telling them. So I don't know when the person says, what do you do when you can't talk to the people around you about what's going on in your business and your life? I don't know if that's the successes, the success stories. That's why the confidence coaching community exists. So you can, well, actually, that's more so for the Prosperity Club, but you can still post your success stories in the club. So when people hear that you are expanding, you are moving forward, they may not want to hear that. They may not be ready to hear that because maybe they do have some things that they want to do and they're not doing them. And you're reminding them that they're not doing them. So what you do when you can't talk to the people around you is to, one, talk to them about what you can talk to them about. So don't cut them off. They still have a significance in your life. It just may not be to talk to them about your business. And motivational speaker Les Brown, he used to call them dream thieves. Like you tell people about your dreams and then they shut it down. They're like, oh, you can't do that because of this. And you're too short and you're too skinny or you too old or whatever the thing is that you're too, so you can't do it. Right. They give you all the reasons why you can't. So you really have to find people who are dreamers. You talk to dreamers about your dream. So that's the second thing I want to say. Make sure that you're talking to people like you about it. So if you're going to talk to somebody about your dreams, talk to dreamers because it feels really good to talk to another dreamer. Would you say so, Tara?
Absolutely. It always is inspiring to talk to people who have been down the path that you're wanting to go down or who are interested in joining you in going down the path that you're wanting to go down, because we all need that. I don't want to say hand holding, but it's nice to hold somebody's hand when you're making those changes or taking a leap of faith in one direction or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you get to the point that you feel like you want to quit, then you really do need to have the right people around you. And that time will come. So I'm not saying if you feel like you want to quit. I said when you feel like you want to quit.
Yeah.
Because that time is going to come. It's going to get tiring. You're going to forget your why sometimes. And you need those people around you who are going to say, no, don't do it. Keep going. Like this is good. You got this, and just push you along. So that's the other thing. Definitely don't talk to those people when you're down because they're just going to make you feel even more down. So what you do when you can't talk to the people around you when you're down about what's going on in your business is you talk to them about what's going well, not so much like, hey, I'm leaving you behind, but also asking them what's going well. Now, I once dated a guy who wasn't doing anything significant. Like to me, he was, but not to him. Like I was impressed with his life and the things that he did, but he wasn't because he was semi-retired. So he felt like he didn't have a business going on. But I was like, well, shoot. I mean, how many people can say they're semi-retired? But he didn't find prestige in it, even though I did. So when I would talk about presidential lifestyle, and this was a couple years ago, so it was in the early days, when I would talk about presidential lifestyle, like you said earlier, his eyes would just like kind of glaze over. He would get like so uninterested and I could tell, but I was like too far in it and too excited to stop myself. So I would just like keep talking and he would just pull further and further away from me. It was hilarious to watch. Like a fly on the wall would just be like, does she not see this man is not listening to her? Does he not see this woman is not going to stop? Like, why don't he just engage her? So I say all of that to say, find like a middle ground. If you do want to keep these people in your life and you do enjoy talking to them and being with them, find a middle ground that you can talk to them about stuff, but also include them in the conversation. So make sure it isn't just all about you, because sometimes when you do have a significant life and your friends don't, sometimes the subject is always about you. So you have to be careful not to make it just always about you.
Right. Yeah. And one other thing that I have found that you're always going to have somebody like, for example, like with my sister, somebody who is playing, the voice of reason. Are you sure that you want to let go of that security? Mm-hmm. And you have to have those people, because if you didn't have those people, then they're almost like your roots, your grounding, and they can give you insight and perspective that maybe you as a dreamer did not think about or consider. That doesn't mean it needs to slow you down or stop you from doing what you've decided to do. But those people that you sometimes, I would say, think that you can't speak to about it, if you go into it saying everything that I'm going to hear right now is not criticism, it is constructive criticism, or, it is just additional ideas, going into it with that mindset of when you speak to that person is also a great idea when you feel like you can't speak to somebody about what's going well.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that point. So just to answer your question, like kind of with a wrap up, So what do you do when you can't speak to the people around you about your business and your life or what's going on in your business and your life? One is find something that you can talk to them about, like find that middle ground, maybe asking them too what's going well in their lives, and that'll help bring you guys closer together. Two, I would say we talked about making sure that you find other people who are dreamers. So you have an outlet, you have a dreamer you can talk to instead of talking to the security person. Talk to the dreamer when you need to be up in the air and floating and not be grounded. But also, like Tara just said, have that voice of reason, have that grounded person around you. So when you do go too far up in the air, they can bring you back down a little bit. And you guys probably hear me talk about how I'm a visionary and I can talk all day about the next big idea. And Tara is there often, even though she's a dreamer too, she's there often like, do you want to finish the thing we started before we go on to this new thing? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe we should do that.
Yeah.
So don't think of it as criticism completely. And then also, I mentioned making sure that it's not always about you, because when you do have that significant life, it could end up being about you a lot. And I remember this from when I was going through Extreme Makeover. People would come up to me and want to talk. And I'm like, I'm with my friend. Like, I'm at lunch with my friend, and I'm sure my friend doesn't want strangers joining us because they want to hear about Extreme Makeover. So no, you can. And I'm glad you watched the show, but I had to be very vigilant about guarding my friendships when I had that stardom in my life, because no, I won't give up my friend time to talk to a stranger, but some people will do that. I've again dated people that will be like, oh, a fan, I must talk to them. It's like, no, you don't. You allotted this time for your girl. It's time to put up a wall and say, not today, not right now. So keep that in mind too. Also, we talked about finding your tribe. You have the confidence coaching community. So really utilize the community to tell your success story, to ask for support in the community, especially if you are a Prosperity Club member. That's the upgraded version, because you have a lot more access if you're in the Prosperity Club. Make sure you're utilizing it. But for those of you listening who are not in the club, and if you're, thinking about it, go ahead and join. We welcome you. We'd love to have you. But if you don't join, then find a tribe. It doesn't have to be us. You do need a tribe, though. You need those people who will support you along the way. Because like I said earlier, if you decide you want to quit, you need somebody who's going to say, don't do it. Don't quit.
Right.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
I was just going to say at the beginning, you mentioned the confidence coaching community. It's only $97 annually. And that's a heck of a lot cheaper than, weekly therapy or something else. Like when it's just a small investment that you can make and join a conversation with cool people like us. So,
yes.
join up.
That is such a great point that you made. It is a very small fee to pay. It's like a very small, especially if you break it down into like what that is a week and all the stuff that we talk about in a week. We do these prosperity principles. And so in the prosperity principles are keys. They're really good, significant keys to success and prosperity. And then you think about it, like you said, you can't have that conversation with just anybody. So if you have a place that you can go and you can talk it out, it'll just reduce your therapy bill some. Because you may still
cost.
Right. Exactly. Awesome. So I guess we won't be doing a second question. I didn't know we would talk so deeply about that question. But I'm glad we did. I'm glad we went so deep, because that person who asked the question, I'm sure he had a bunch of stuff running through his head, and to get such a detailed answer can be very helpful. I don't know if you guys agree, but what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And as I mentioned, when we're talking about this, I know that like sometimes culturally and societally, we feel like we don't want to mention the good things that are going on in our life to our loved ones because maybe things are not going so good with them. But just know that you always have a place to come and brag about yourself with us, because we want you to move forward and be confident in what you're pursuing.
Yes, so true. Yeah, we want you to brag about yourself so we can
Mhm.
pump you up as well. And if you watch my Facebook Lives or anything like that, you know that anytime somebody from the club comes on one of our Facebook Lives, I prop them up. I give them so much love and edify them so much. And so I believe in bragging about yourself because if you're good at something, people should know about it and you should get paid
Mhm.
well. So,
And that's
yes.
what we're trying to do at the end of the day.
Yep, exactly. So awesome. Well, thank you, Prosperos, for joining us today. Thank you, Tara, for coming in and helping me out because you know I need it.
You are very welcome.
Okay, see you guys soon.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to KeneQuarter.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.